Hello, members of Grateful Migrant Collaborative Community and general public. Today, I want to show you another case of migrant successful, where an extraordinary person tells us how she converted the challenge of starting from scrap making her way in a new place as an opportunity for self-improvement. Wishing blessings for you and your home, I welcome you. My name is Blake Turner. In this opportunity, we will talk about the immigration system from an insider perspective, with updated information to date by our West towards the members to the collaborative community Grateful Migrant, a community that recognizes help and guidance to others as an instrument to pray and thank you for the blessings sent of the Holy Trinity, Virgin Mary, and nature, whom we thank for allowing each of us to live this moment together. It's a pleasure to present you a Renata Brum from Ottawa, Ontario, a successful history of great immigrant, registered immigration consultant with the Immigration Consultant of Canada Regulatory Council, ICCRC. Remember, a Canadian government entity that regulates and authorizes the practice of counseling in immigration topics. Renata, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Renata, tell us, how do you identify with the grateful migrant community?
Well, I have to say that I identify with every immigrant because I'm one myself. Now, my story is a little bit different than maybe your story or other people's, but we all have very common points in our immigration story. So I didn't come recently like many people who are here now. I was born in a tiny village in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean in the Azores to parents with a grade 4 education. We came in 1972 and the immigration system was completely different. My parents had no English when they came here, and all they needed was to be a family and to show that they could pay to come to Canada, and they had some savings. So of course they sold everything they had and they came here. Then of course the challenges are they had no language. And when we first arrived here, I was 4 and my brother was 3, and within about 5 months, my little brother was hit by a car, and my father and mother did not even know how to speak to the doctors or the nurses, how to call 911. So it was a very traumatic experience for them. And this was the first experience they had of the difficulties of coming to a new country. So I understand that. Also, my parents didn't have education, so they had to work in jobs that were very difficult. My father was in construction, my mother took care of kids, and they were struggling to learn the language, pay the mortgage, get a car, just like everyone else. And what happened was I became their translator because I learned English faster than they did as a child. And so our roles were reversed. I took them to the doctor, I took care of their household, and so on. This is very common to many immigrants. Also, my parents were very worried about me and my siblings losing our culture, like many people who come here. So they only spoke Portuguese to us, and they put us in Portuguese school every day. After school, I had to go for 3 hours Portuguese school in addition to English school. Why? Because my parents were afraid of losing our culture. This is very common, right? And then when I was younger, as I got older, my parents asked me to go to work, and they took my paycheck, of course, to help support the family. And we know that many immigrant families, the kids work to also help support the family. The other way in which I identify with your community is that I'm a faithful person. One of my degrees is in theology, and I believe in God, and God informs all of my life and my purpose. And everything I do has a relationship with God and with my purpose in life, and it informs my vocation. I always want to help people if I can, and I'm very conscious that I'm so grateful, like your community, for everything that has been given to me, because I was lucky to have the parents I did, the family I did, and to have immigrated to Canada, one of the most wonderful countries in the world. And I, of course, am in a position now to give back. I had a wonderful job, a fantastic education, I have good health, great connections, and now I feel such a connection with immigrants that I want to help them all the time. So now I give my time to newcomers. I mentor immigrant women. I volunteer with the Canadian Centre for Immigrants in Ottawa, the OCISO group, OCCSC. I always get them mixed up. But all three newcomer organizations, 1 day a week. That's one full day out of my week is all given for free for the poor. And I think this is just a way that I give back to the community. And I think these are all the ways in which I can connect with you. And I feel like I should be a member of your group, Blake.
Welcome every time, Renata. Thank you for joining us today and help other people. Renata, from your profession and your experience, what should an immigrant investigate about the immigration system from the place of depart and the place of arrival?
Right. So this is a great question, and it's something that people don't think about a lot. I would say that many people are not prepared for all of the things that are required when you immigrate. Great. They have these wonderful hopes and dreams. The first thing they need to understand, I think, is that they should understand the immigration system. Okay, that immigrating is very expensive. That frequently you will have to sell everything you have to be able to establish yourself, and that you think that you've got a great job and you can speak English and you're going to get a job in Canada, but people don't understand how challenging it can be for someone who is a newcomer with no connections. We have a saying in Canada that is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And of course, if you're an immigrant, you hardly know anybody unless you come into a community where everybody comes from, say, Colombia or Chile, or a Spanish speaker that you can connect with who can help you along. I think that's very important. I think people also need to understand that the process is very long and it's very tedious. There's so much paper involved. You have to take an English test. You have to prove everything that you say to the government, your age, your connection to your family, how much money you have. And so you have to be prepared to provide stacks of paper and also to keep all of the paper, the important documents from your life at home, and bring them to Canada to save you work in the future. And I think you have to understand that the process can be very long depending on where you start. If you come to Canada as a permanent resident, you stay here 3 years and you can become a citizen. But if you come as a visitor, you have to convert your status from visitor to worker to permanent resident to citizen. And sometimes that process can take, 10 years. And so you need to have a lot of patience. I would say if you want to come to Canada, the point of departure, before you come, be prepared for a long journey. And you have to have fortitude. You have to say, if this is your dream and you're committed to making a better life for yourself and your children, then you've got to keep the long view in mind. Keep the goal in mind and know that ultimately you're building a new life for your family. You're leaving the streets of your childhood. But if you work hard, you will be successful. I think the people who come to Canada are truly extraordinary because our standards of bringing people to Canada are extremely high. The last thing I would say that people must know before they come is that the best thing that they can do for themselves is to learn English, to improve their level of English, because the government of Canada has done many studies of immigrants over many years, and they have found that more than age, more than Canadian education, Canadian experience, foreign education, and foreign experience, the determinative factor of success in Canada is proficiency in English or French, or both. So they found that the best thing you can do, that immigrants can do, the success rate goes like this if they have, pretty good English. But it goes like this after the first 2 years, after the first 5 years, and even after 10 years, if their level of English is super high. Because why? Because to get a job, you need to be able to communicate in English. And you need to sound like a Canadian, or English or French. You need to sound like a Canadian and act like a Canadian and absorb the culture quickly. And people don't understand what a big difference it is. I tell everybody, look, the best thing you can do for yourself if you can't quite qualify for a program is just spend all your time studying English and French. Not until you can dream in English and French, speak fluently, write really well, then be prepared to give a little bit more time to that immigration journey, because many programs require a high level of English, and people don't realize that. They think, I'm pretty fluent, but pretty fluent. What does that mean? First you need a test, and then you will see how fluent is fluent, because we have many levels of fluency. So those are the things that I would say that newcomers need to understand before they depart.
Exactly. We have to think about different aspects, and the communication skills is very important.
Yeah,
Very
right.
important. And again, Renata, thank you for your time and your help in this way. Renata, we can go to the topic, and we can start with this, the immigration system from an insider perspective. In this way, we are going to have a couple questions, quickly questions, for our members and the general public. The first is, what is it?
What is it? Well, let me talk about the immigration system. It's just the way in which the government has established programs to serve the economy, to bring people into Canada. Okay, that's what it is. We have a complex system in immigration, and it's run by the IRCC, the Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada Department. And within that department, as a branch of it, but not connected, is also the Immigration and Refugee Board. And so your case can come to Immigration and Citizenship. It can go to the Immigration or Refugee Board in case you're a refugee, for instance. And then sometimes you can go to an appeal system at the Federal Court of Canada or even the Supreme Court.
Okay. The next question, you answer a part, but for the goal for make clear for the viewers, I have to ask you, what is it for?
The immigration system, in all its complexity with all the branches, is designed to process the applications of all kinds of immigrants that want to come to Canada to visit, to work, or to live in Canada, or to do business in Canada for a short time, a temporary purpose, or for the long term.
The next is how it works.
Well, we could spend all day on a question like this. Basically, how it works is every program has a series of eligibility requirements. For instance, one of the main programs for coming to Canada is the Express Entry program, and it's based on age, language proficiency, Canadian experience, Canadian education, foreign experience, foreign education. That is all put together in a series of points, right? You get points for all of these elements. And if you have sufficient points and you are in a pool, you apply, then you can be chosen if your points are high. That's one type of program. There are other programs that are designed to bring in-demand people to Canada. For instance, we have many programs for people who are experts in information technology. This is very in demand. So the government sets out eligibility requirements, and then the applicant needs to demonstrate that they meet the requirements on paper. People don't understand how much paper you need, but that's how it's done. And then it's processed through the immigration system. And in the end, an officer decides whether you meet the requirements or you don't. That's how it works.
Excellent. Excellent definition for how it works. Thank you again, Renata.
You're welcome.
And then, what types of status exist?
Well, there are many types of status. There is a refugee status. So if somebody can arrive in Canada and claim refugee status if they are persecuted in their country of origin, that's one. Then we've got temporary residents, and those include people like visitors who are coming to Canada just for a visit to see someone, and then they leave. There are also people who come here to work temporarily. They come for a short time, they work, and they leave. There are people who come, or sometimes people who want to convert their status from temporary to permanent status, which means you become a permanent resident of Canada. And ultimately, there are Canadian citizens, and those are people who dedicate their lives or are committed to living in Canada, being in Canada, and participating in the life and living out the rights and responsibilities of a citizen.
Okay. And this question, What is the obligation, rights, and benefit each immigrant status has?
Well, I would say that everybody, depending on your status, you've got different obligations. And an officer on your visitor permit or work permit or permanent residence will set out the obligations you have in conformity with the law. So a visitor is obliged to come to Canada to demonstrate that they have enough money to survive in Canada for the visit, and then to leave Canada. That's an obligation. If you are a temporary resident and you have a work permit, then you are supposed to be working for the employer they tell you, the government says you should be working for, and then leave at the end of the term. Usually there are a lot of every temporary resident status requires leaving. Contrarily, if you are a permanent resident, your obligation is to stay. For instance, a permanent resident needs to stay in Canada 2 out of every 5 years, right? And to obey the laws of the country and to volunteer and to participate in the community, because now as a permanent resident, you've got a more serious obligation toward your country. And most of all, the people who are most obliged to the country and have the biggest responsibilities are Canadian citizens. And they have the right and responsibility of voting. They have a responsibility to volunteer in their community, to take care of their families, get a job, to obey the law. Everybody's got an obligation to obey the law, every status, and to participate in the communities and build up the country.
Excellent. Okay. Next question, Renata. What key things should every migrant know about the immigration system?
Well, I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but I would say that it takes, that you must prove everything that you say about who you are, that it's a long process, that it's based on eligibility, that it can be expensive, and that they have to demonstrate a lot of fortitude and patience in order to get through it. Right? It's not easy.
Okay, but I forgot a question, a really important question about this. Sorry, but is the following: how does your immigration status affect you in the courts if you commit a crime?
Right. Well, if you are, depending on where you are, if you are outside of Canada and you want to apply for immigration, let's say to become a permanent resident, there will be a background check to see if you are criminally inadmissible. That means if you've committed a crime, the government will see that you've committed a crime, because people who want to immigrate need a police check. And depending on the crime, the severity of the crime, it may make you inadmissible to Canada, which means inadmissible by definition is you are not able to come to Canada. Okay? If you are in Canada, let's say on a work permit, and you commit assault and battery, then that makes you inadmissible and you will be deported to your country of origin. Yeah? Also, if you do anything contrary to the Immigration Act, you could be deported. If you break the conditions, you could be deported. And the only case where there's an exception is if you're a Canadian citizen and you commit a crime, then you will not be deported. So I think those are the main things to keep in mind, is that one of the things that Canada values is a peaceful society. And we build that into our court system and to our immigration system, because we want people who come here who have clean criminal records. So if you have a criminal record in your background at any time, or you commit a crime in Canada, you should expect to be denied immigration or to be deported.
Okay, you see, value information for all of us is really important.
Yeah, people sometimes don't realize, and they think it's minor, but even sometimes if you an assault or a DUI, a drug charge, something like that, if it's serious, and even if it's not so serious, can cause a deportation. It can trigger a deportation. And as soon as you are here and you commit a crime, it's going to involve the criminal justice system and the immigration system, because these organizations, that regulate these aspects of our justice system overall are connected, and they will know, of course, the government will know that you've committed a crime, and then the process will begin for punishing you and leaving you here, or causing you to leave. And I think it's important to understand that this is one of the reasons Canada is such a safe country. It's because people who come here adhere to the values of this country. And I have to tell you, people are worried sometimes when they call me and they say, oh, what part of the country should I come to? And I tell them it's almost the same everywhere. The education system is almost the same. The healthcare system is almost the same everywhere you go. The people are almost the same. But everybody values peace, order, and good government. And I have 5 kids. Okay, I have 5 children from the age of 18 to 23. That's a lot of kids. And they almost never lock the front door. Do you think they could remember to lock my front door? But I've never had anything stolen in my life from my home, even though my kids are flying out the door in and out. And I think that says something about our country. One of the things that immigrants, and I don't think we addressed this, but this is an extra piece. I used to be a citizenship judge for 6 years and the senior citizenship judge of Canada, and I had 36 judges under me. And one of the things I heard the most was, Judge, I can't believe it, that my kids leave their bikes on the front lawn and they leave the doors open and nothing gets stolen. And stores have stuff outside. And of course we do have crime, but it's not a high level of crime. It's a very low level. And that's because I think we bring people here who share our values.
It's really important review this part of the immigrants, no?
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Renata, please, comments and suggestions that you want to give additional.
Well, I would say that what I say to people the most is that sometimes when they arrive, they feel a lot of discouragement. They feel like they can't get a job in their careers, that they're struggling with their kids are adopting values that are not like the parents who raised them, that there's a lot of change, that there's a lot of new things to cope with, and they begin to feel down about themselves, and they feel like it's a real struggle, and then they doubt that they did the right choice, that they made the right choice. And what I tell newcomers is, look, the fact that you are on Canadian soil means you are a rock star. You have an enormous amount to contribute to this country. And even though your contributions may not immediately be valued or appreciated, don't give up, keep going, and one day they will be. And don't forget about your dignity and your value and the gifts that you bring to this country that will build it up. Don't feel discouraged and don't give up hope. You really are extraordinary people. I have always said to newcomers that they are the bravest people and the people I most admire in this country, because they leave the streets of their childhood and they give up everything and they start all over again. And that means you have the heart of a lion and more courage than most people.
Excellent. It's a pretty good advice and summarize. And finally, Renata, please tell us about your company, your product, service, and exclusive benefit that you are willing to offer to the members of grateful migrant collaborative community.
Well, thank you. My contract ended as the senior judge, I decided that I didn't know if I wanted to go to the Immigration and Refugee Board, and I applied and to do something else in immigration, or if I wanted to take a job in government or somewhere, maybe education. But I decided that I was going to establish an immigration law practice, and I went to the University of British Columbia and I took a year of courses in all kinds of immigration law, and I got my license as a consultant, and I established a practice. And so I do all kinds of applications, citizenship applications, of course, I know very well because I was a citizenship judge, but also, visitor visas and study permits and work permits and business immigration. So I do everything pretty much. And I also know wonderful lawyers because of course, I worked with people who were making presentations to me. So I can make excellent referrals. I also have some inside information, which doesn't mean that all of my applications will be approved, but it means I have an understanding of how the system works. And I think that really benefits people who come to me, and that's an extra benefit. And finally, for your community, I would be very happy to offer a 10% discount on consultations and on cases, because I love to help people. And for me, it's about meaningful work and not so much about the money. Of course, I have to be paid because I've got kids. Everybody has to feed people. But I can offer a small discount. I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you very much, Renata. We really appreciate your help, your benefit, your promotion. And you know, this is a hand in the way of the immigrants. All of your advice is very good for all of us. And in this way, we wish you very good health to you, to your home, and your team of your company. Thank you very much again. We really appreciate you stay with us. And Renata Brum, a grateful migrant, a successful story.
Thank you so much, Mike. All the best to you.
And you reviewer, my friend, send us your question of general interest of your community, and if you consider that you are also successful case in grateful migrant with a professional domain in knowledge area of grateful in interest to the collaborative community, or you know someone who considered it want to be interviewed by us, we thank you for letting us know by writing to info@migranteagradecido.com, subject interest request, with your justification of why are you applying and contract details. We will be very happy to show the world more cases of successful like yours. Thank you very much for joining us. If you link this video, don't forget give a like star, subscribe to the channel, and ask more content of great interest. Send us your value comments by email and share us on your social networks with hashtag Soy Migrante Agradecido. My name is Blake Turner, and I wish you each of your blessings. Until next time, and have a great day.